Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. Let's start talking politics. France is in the middle of a political crisis again. Prime Minister Michel Barnier's budget gamble has backfired and it might lead to his departure from the government. Also, speaking of political crisis, South Korea is in one. In the last 24 hours, the country has taken an unexpected turn. Uncertainty has gripped the country as well as the future of the president. Let's start with France. The government is set to face a no-confidence vote that could end the short-lived administration of Prime Minister Michel Barnier and plunge the country into a political crisis. And this comes after the Premier forced through the social security budget without a vote, at a time when France is struggling to tame a massive budget deficit. The far-right National Rally is expected to vote in favour of the no-confidence motion put forward by the left, giving it enough numbers to pass. Prime Minister Barnier has said that it's possible that his government survives the vote, saying there could be a reflex of responsibility from MPs. But most analysts believe that with the far-right teaming up with the left, the government is doomed. Barring a last-minute surprise, this will be the first French government to be forced out of by a no-confidence vote in more than 60 years. The debate is due to start at 4 p.m. local time, which is about 30 minutes from now, with voting expected about 3 hours later. President Emmanuel Macron is set to return to France from a state visit to Saudi Arabia during the day. The toppling of the Barnier government after just 3 months in office would present President Emmanuel Macron with a challenge of how to move ahead and who to appoint in his place. No new elections can be called for a year, remember, after the previous legislative polls narrowing Macron's options. Several leaders have suggested that resignation could be Macron's only viable option, but Macron has rejected the calls to resign to break the political impasse, saying that such a scenario amounts to a quote-unquote political fiction. And again, as the latest, our correspondent Ross Cullen is joining us from Paris. Ross, good to see you. Many of the political analysts who are tracking Prime Minister Barnier since September would say that this is something he should have expected coming. Is that the sense you're getting in Paris?
Yeah, I didn't quite hear the question, but we are expecting from 4 p.m. this evening is when the MPs in the National Assembly will start to cast their ballots in the motion of no confidence. The debates will be beginning, and then we will get the results later this evening, something that Emmanuel Macron, the president, will be closely watching, and we could well be in the final few hours of Michel Barnier's premiership if indeed opposition MPs on the left and on the far right do vote to to remove him. As is customary, if he were to lose one of those votes, he would then send a letter of resignation to the president, who is on his way back from a trip to Saudi Arabia, and then it would be up for Emmanuel Macron to decide whether to keep Michel Barnier in place and ask him to try to come to a new agreement with MPs over the budget, or to replace Michel Barnier. But bear in mind, it took Emmanuel Macron weeks and weeks over the summer, after inconclusive elections in July, to eventually come to agree on Michel Barnier as Prime Minister. France has no such luxury of time this time around, because the 2025 budget, which started this whole problem, is due to be approved and must be approved before the 1st of January.
Absolutely tough few hours ahead for Paris. Ross, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast and getting us your insights. Now, the last 24 hours has been tense in South Korea. What started with the president declaring an emergency has brought deep-rooted issues onto the streets. People held a candlelight vigil in the capital city of Seoul, condemning the president's surprise declaration of martial law.
다 있다고 볼 수 있습니다. 이것은 또한 온 국민을, 온 시민을 우롱하고 기만하는 행위.
Our correspondent on the ground says more protests are planned and they are expected to swell during the night as well as over the weekend.
우리 민주노총 조합원 여러분 그리고 시민 여러분 반갑습니다. 내일 저녁 6시 광화문 광장에서 촛불을 들 것이고
There have been growing calls for President Yoon Suk-yeol to step down. Lawmakers have even submitted a bill to impeach him, which, if approved, could trigger a major political crisis in Asia's fourth largest economy. The parliament will have to vote on whether to impeach Yoon by Saturday.
계엄을 해제한다 해도
Even if martial law is lifted, he cannot avoid treason charges. It was clearly revealed to the entire nation that President Yoon could no longer run the country normally.
수 없음이 온 국민 앞에 명백히 드러났습니다.
While on the surface it seemed like a usual Wednesday for the common people, deep down the overnight political drama has brought in a sense of uncertainty.
I found out this morning that martial law had been declared, and I was truly shocked to hear the news. I looked into it further and was relieved to see that it was safely lifted by the morning. Now, being able to enjoy a cup of coffee in the afternoon feels like something to be genuinely grateful for.
이 상황이 참 감사한 것 같습니다.
오늘 강릉을 가게 되는데
I'm heading to Gangneung today, but when I first heard the news, I was worried I might not be able to go. However, more than the trip itself, I was concerned about the restrictions we might face in our daily lives. I'm really glad that things worked out and I can still go on this trip.
그래도 이렇게 갈 수 있게 돼서 너무 다행이라고 생각해요.
VOA correspondent Bill Gallo has been tracking this story for us. He has the latest report from Seoul.
You know, it's been 24 hours since Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law, and to be completely honest with you, we still don't have very many answers about why Yoon did this. There's sort of great confusion about what his political calculation was for doing this, how he thought he could succeed, and where this all goes now is sort of unclear. To be honest, I haven't seen many voices in South Korea who are expressing sympathy for the South Korean president's rationale here. Even South Korean conservative newspapers are quite critical of this rationale for doing this move. Now, it is completely within his legal right to be able to enact martial law. However, the justification he has used for doing that this was some sort of national existential crisis somewhere on the footing of some war footing or something like that, that is not being received very well tonight.
So much happened so quickly in South Korea. While we decode what's to come, we look back at those 180 minutes in Seoul.
At 10:23 p.m. on Tuesday, President Yoon declared martial law in a televised address.
I declare martial law to protect the Free Republic of Korea from the threat of North Korean Communist forces, to eradicate the despicable pro-North Korean anti-state forces that are plundering the freedom and happiness of our people, and to protect the free constitutional order.
At 10:40 p.m., the main opposition party called for an emergency parliamentary session. Leader Lee Jae-myung urged all lawmakers to gather at the National Assembly to vote to overturn the martial law. At 11 p.m., the martial law took effect. The military released a decree banning protests and activity by parliament and political parties, also placing media under government control. At 11:14 p.m., Speaker Woo Won-shik and other lawmakers arrived at the assembly, some navigating police barricades. At 12 a.m., the number of lawmakers present exceeded 150, the required quota. 12:27 a.m., military helicopters landed on the premises and armed troops attempted to enter the assembly building, clashing with lawmakers and their aides. At 12:48, the session began, and at 1:01, the motion to revoke martial law was introduced. At 1:04 a.m., the motion was passed with unanimous support. Speaker Woo Won-shik declared the martial law invalid. And at 4:26 a.m., in a second televised address, President Yoon lifted the martial law.
I request that the Parliament immediately ceases the reckless actions that are paralyzing the functions of the state, such as repeated impeachment, legislative manipulation, and budget manipulation.
Let's focus now. US President-elect Donald Trump's legal team has filed a motion to dismiss his felony hush money conviction, citing similarities with President Joe Biden's recent pardon of his son, Hunter Biden. Trump's lawyers argue that Biden's pardon was based on claims of selective prosecution and unfair treatment, and that the same reasoning should apply to Trump's case. President Biden pardoned his son Hunter Biden on Sunday. The latter was convicted earlier this year of tax evasion and illegally possessing a firearm. Biden claimed that because Hunter was his son, he was selectively and unfairly prosecuted by the Department of Justice. Trump's motion to dismiss saw his legal team cite the arguments used by Biden to make their own case to presiding judge Juan Merchan. In a 69-page brief, Trump's lawyers invoked presidential immunity and the Presidential Transition Act to support their motion. The move comes after Trump was found guilty in May of 34 counts of falsifying business records related to the payment of $130,000 to adult film actress Stormy Daniels to silence her before an alleged extramarital affair during the 2016 election campaign. Now, the judge in the only criminal case against Trump that has gone to trial indefinitely postponed Trump's sentencing at a hearing on November 22nd, given his win in the November 5th presidential elections. With Trump's defense team filing to dismiss the case, the judge will now have to decide whether to throw out the case entirely or to suspend any legal consequences until after the end of Trump's upcoming term in office, which will begin on January 20th. Now, correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us on this broadcast from New York to get us the latest. Susan, good to see you. With a move like this, what kind of implications can we expect to follow?
So basically, President-elect Donald Trump's team is arguing for selective prosecution, the same that happened to President Biden's son Hunter Biden, and he's drawing that comparison, saying that it's very similar. We haven't heard from Alvin Bragg's office yet. Judge Juan Merchan already was saying that either he's going to throw this case out entirely or is going to wait for prosecution after President-elect Donald Trump leaves office. He's going to be in his mid-80s. It's yet to be seen whether or not he's going to agree with this motion filed by the president-elect's team or not. But because of President Biden's actions, then it appears that it may be likely that this motion may go ahead. But we'll have to wait and see. There is a lot of course, politics at play, notably here in New York. So it's very hard to tell what the next steps would be.
All right, Susan, thank you so much for all those updates from New York. Let's now talk about Georgia. The country continues to witness political unrest. Opposition parties and supporters took to the streets of Tbilisi for a 6th consecutive day, demanding fair elections and resumption of EU accession talks. As per the latest reports, the opposition Droa party has said that Georgia police has arrested their leader, Nika Guaramia, while raiding the party's offices. Police used water cannons and tear gas against protesters who continued demonstrations against the ruling Dream Party. However, the Prime Minister has said that the attempt at a revolution was over in the country.
So the attempt to organize the Maidan in Georgia is already over. I would call everybody to keep quiet, let's say, and to keep peace in this country. So we are responsible for that. I can assure everybody that there will be peace in this country.
The Prime Minister has refused any potential negotiations with the opposition. The Georgian president had earlier accused the government of declaring quote-unquote war on its own people. But the Prime Minister has claimed that the protests have been funded from abroad and vowed that there will be no revolution in Georgia. The fresh wave of protests broke out last week after the government decided to delay the process of becoming a European Union member till the year 2028. The ruling party has suspended EU accession talks and accuses Brussels of blackmail. Let's talk about India now. The suspense over the next Chief Minister of Maharashtra has ended, with senior BJP leader Devendra Fadnavis set to take oath on Thursday. Addressing a press conference, Fadnavis said he will take oath as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra at the oath-taking ceremony scheduled to be held at 5:30 p.m. local time in Mumbai. Fadnavis was picked by the BJP's core committee in Mumbai ahead of a meeting of the Maharashtra Legislature Party. Union Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani and Fadnavis were present in the BJP's core committee meeting. This will be Fadnavis's third term as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Meanwhile, Fadnavis has requested Eknath Shinde to be a part of the cabinet as the Deputy Chief Minister. But the caretaker Chief Minister and Shiv Sena leader said that he will announce his final decision later. Just a short while back, in fact, leaders of the Shiv Sena gathered at Shinde's residence for a meeting to discuss the next step. Preparations are underway at Mumbai's Azad Maidan. The event is expected to be attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Union Minister Amit Shah, along with the Chief Ministers of NDA-ruled states. Celebrations erupted outside the residence of Devendra Fadnavis in Nagpur as soon as he was unanimously elected as the leader of Maharashtra, a BJP legislative party. In the recently held state assembly elections, the Mahayuti alliance won 230 of the 288 assembly seats. The BJP led with 132 seats, while the Shiv Sena got 57 and NCP 41 seats. Now, a high-profile assassination attempt unfolded in India's Punjab earlier today. A man opened fire at Punjab's former Deputy Chief Minister Sukhbir Singh Badal while he was serving his penance at the Golden Temple in Amritsar. The shooter, identified as Narayan Singh Chora, was overpowered by security personnel dressed in plain clothes and party workers on the spot. Police have taken the suspect into custody and a case has been registered against him. Badal, the Shiromani Akali Dal chief, was sitting on punishment guard duty when the attack took place. He was sitting at the entrance, in fact, with a plaque around his neck as part of the religious punishment, when suddenly a man fired at him, and police say that no one was injured during the attack. Shiromani Akali Dal leaders and other political parties have condemned the incident, blaming the Aam Aadmi-led state government for security lapse.
SED Chief Sukhbir Singh Badal was sitting by the Guru Ramdas Dwar as Chaukidar. Bullet was fired in his direction. I thank Guru Nanak that he saved his sevak. This is a huge incident. What era is Punjab being pushed into? I would like to ask the CM of Punjab, where do you want to take Punjab?
The leaders of the Akal Takht, the highest temporal body for the Sikhs, have condemned the assassination attempt on Badal and called for a detailed investigation.
This is not an attack on Sukhbir Badal, but an attack on a volunteer performing service at the Gurudwara premises. We condemn this act and appeal to the government to investigate and find out who is behind this incident.
The punishment was pronounced by the Akal Takht board for religious misconduct during Badal's tenure from 2007 to 2017. Now, Netumbo Nandi has been elected as Namibia's next president and will be the country's first woman leader. She was declared winner of last week's presidential election after a disputed vote. With her victory, the long-ruling SWAPO party remains in power. According to official results declared by the Electoral Commission, the 72-year-old won with 57% of the vote, defying predictions that she might be forced into a runoff. The main opposition, IPC, trailed with 25.5% of the vote. Nandi said that after being declared president-elect, the Namibian nation has voted for peace and stability. Although a contested outcome, her win cements the governing party's 34-year hold on power. Opposition parties have rejected the results after the election was marred by technical problems. Shortages of ballot papers and other issues had forced election officials to extend voting until Saturday. Due to long queues, a few voters gave up on the first day of voting after waiting for about 12 hours. Opposition parties say the extension was illegal and a deliberate attempt to frustrate the voters. They have pledged to challenge the results in court. The November 27th election was a test of SWAPO's grip on power, with younger voters more concerned by unemployment and inequality than loyalty to liberation-era parties. Nandi has been a SWAPO stalwart known by her initials, Triple N. She was promoted to vice president in February. Among her election promises, NNN has said that she intends to create jobs by attracting investments using economic diplomacy. Now, correspondent Kalde Nongmu has been closely tracking this story. She sends your report.
Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah, This will be a name that people of Namibia, or for that fact, even other African countries, will not forget. The 72-year-old made history as Namibia's first president after she emerged victorious in recently held elections. But despite her win, analysts say her journey will not be a cakewalk. She faces significant challenges ahead. Tackling youth unemployment, high corruption, land and housing distribution will be her urgent priority. Namibia also remains one of the most unequal economies globally. Therefore, managing these issues and living up to her promise while restoring public trust will test her leadership in the years ahead. Namibia is one of South Africa's key trading partners in the Southern African region and holds great historic significance for the people of South Africa. This is Kalden Olmo from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
And with that, we're wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching with me, Ananya Datta. Goodbye. Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at WION.com.
Business Masters is an exciting show, I think, because it not only talks about the company's philosophies around how they have grown, but also how individuals have really used their own philosophy to integrate into businesses. I think this is very useful for anyone who's starting a business, who's running a business, or not just entrepreneurs, but even students and professionals who are wanting to get into business.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look as to what is making headlines at this hour. The Syrian War Monitor has said that the death toll from a rebel offensive in northwest Syria has now risen to over 704. This includes at least about 110 civilians, and thousands of people are fleeing from Aleppo for safer areas. The German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has said that her government is open to sending soldiers to Ukraine in the event of a peace deal. This, as reports say that the American President-elect Donald Trump has suggested that the European troops should enforce any future buffer zone in Europe. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is to visit Malta on Thursday. It will be his first visit to an EU nation since Russia launched